A janitor quietly cleans the floors, mumbling softly in different tongues. When the CEO overhears him flawlessly speaking 9 languages, the janitor's life changes forever, and the CEO's shocking next move leaves the entire office speechless. Jason Miller had been working quietly at TechGlobal headquarters for nearly 5 years, yet most employees barely knew he existed. To many, he was simply another janitor, a silent figure who moved unnoticed through the company halls. His daily routine began long before sunrise, when the massive building was still wrapped in darkness, its corridors empty except for his footsteps echoing gently against the tiled floors. He cleaned meticulously, leaving the premises spotless for the busy day ahead. As workers arrived, sharply dressed executives and buzzing employees would stream through the doors, barely acknowledging his presence, their eyes focused firmly ahead or on their buzzing smartphones. Jason's uniform was a simple, faded blue, the fabric worn thin from countless washings. It had become a comforting part of his identity, a cloak of invisibility allowing him to blend effortlessly into the background. But beneath the quiet demeanor and humble appearance, Jason nurtured an extraordinary secret, a passion that few would ever guess. Every morning, as he polished gleaming floors, wiped fingerprints from windows, and methodically emptied trash bins, Jason softly whispered to himself, seamlessly switching between languages. English flowed smoothly into French, then transitioned effortlessly into German, Mandarin, and Spanish. His voice, gentle and melodic, danced through the air, barely audible but filled with quiet confidence. He practiced Italian, refining his accent until it was indistinguishable from a native speaker's. He murmured phrases in Russian, Arabic, and Japanese, savoring the richness and complexity of each language. His extraordinary talent was entirely self-taught, born from a lifetime of curiosity and solitude. Language, Jason discovered early on, was more than mere communication. It was a gateway to understanding others, a bridge connecting diverse cultures and distant worlds. Growing up in a military family, Jason had moved frequently, always adapting to new schools and unfamiliar neighborhoods. Languages became his companions, his constant friends when others were hard to find. During breaks at TechGlobal, while co-workers chatted about weekend plans or the latest company gossip, Jason eagerly listened to language podcasts and memorized grammar rules. At night, he immersed himself in foreign films and literature, absorbing every nuance and idiom he encountered. To Jason, these daily practice sessions were a quiet sanctuary, a private celebration of his unique skills in a job often overlooked and undervalued by others. Never did he imagine anyone might notice, let alone care. He was content in his secret world, fulfilled by the quiet satisfaction of constant improvement. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Unbeknownst to Jason, his whispered conversations echoed softly through the empty corridors early one morning, drifting toward the ears of someone powerful and influential at TechGlobal. Someone who usually arrived later in the day had come in unusually early, catching the faint whispers echoing gently through the halls. This powerful figure paused, intrigued by the unfamiliar, yet flawless words drifting through the air. Jason had no idea that at that very moment, his life was about to change forever. One chilly Wednesday morning, long before most employees arrived, TechGlobal's gleaming headquarters echoed with silence, except for the soft shuffle of one man's footsteps. Robert Pierce, the dynamic and sharp-minded CEO of the company, had come in unusually early. Known for his punctuality and commanding presence, Robert typically started his day at 9 a.m. sharp. But on this particular day, an urgent investor call prompted him to arrive just after sunrise. The building, bathed in golden light from the rising sun, felt eerily empty as he strode through the marble corridors. As Robert moved toward his office, briefcase in hand and eyes scanning his notes, he caught something peculiar of voice. But not just any voice. It was calm, rhythmic, and unlike anything he expected at that hour. He paused instinctively. Someone was talking softly just around the corner. At first, Robert thought it was a Bluetooth call on speaker or perhaps a foreign documentary playing on a phone. But as he listened more closely, he realized something astounding. Whoever it was wasn't just speaking one language. The voice moved fluidly from French to German, then transitioned into Mandarin without skipping a beat. It was poetic and seamless, the kind of fluency that only came from deep study and immersion. Driven by curiosity, Robert quietly stepped closer and peeked around the corner. To his surprise, it was Jason, the janitor. There he was, mopping the shiny tile floor with practiced ease, lips moving as he held a quiet conversation with himself in what now seemed to be his eighth language of the morning. He wasn't reading from a script. He wasn't using a phone. It was all coming from memory, natural, flowing, confident. Robert stood frozen, completely taken aback. This was no ordinary janitor. He watched in awe for a moment, captivated by the ease with which Jason shifted between dialects. It felt like watching a polyglot professor rehearse before a global summit. The realization struck him. This man had an astonishing gift, hidden beneath the blue collar of a janitor's uniform. Unable to contain his curiosity any longer, Robert stepped forward and gently interrupted. "Excuse me," he said, his voice firm yet respectful. "How do you know so many languages?" Jason jerked upright, startled, his mop pausing mid-swipe. His eyes widened when he recognized the CEO of the company standing before him. I didn't know anyone else was here," Jason replied, his voice quiet and a little nervous. It's just something I do to keep my mind busy." Robert stepped closer, now completely intrigued. "That was French, German, and was that Mandarin you were speaking just now?" Jason gave a shy nod. "Yes, and a few others. I've always loved languages. I study them in my free time." Robert looked at him with astonishment and admiration. "Jason, do you realize how rare that is?" Jason gave a modest shrug. "It's just something I enjoy. I never thought it was anything special." But Robert knew instantly it was special, and he wasn't about to let a talent like that go unnoticed. "You said." Jason shyly lowered his mop, his eyes meeting Robert's for only a second before looking down again. His hands gripped the mop handle a little tighter, as if it anchored him from floating away in embarrassment. "Oh, I didn't see you there, sir," he said quietly, his voice carrying both humility and nervousness. "Languages, they're kind of my hobby. I taught myself during breaks and after work." Robert raised his eyebrows, clearly impressed. "You taught yourself 9 languages?" Jason nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. My dad was in the military. We moved around a lot. Europe, Asia, the Middle East. I was always the new kid. Learning the local language helped me make friends. And after a while, it became more than just a survival skill. It became something I loved. I guess I just never stopped learning." Robert found himself at a rare loss for words. The idea that someone could teach themselves such a vast array of languages without any formal training or support was, quite frankly, mind-blowing. He'd spent thousands on consultants just to improve TechGlobal's overseas communication efficiency. Yet here stood a janitor, soft-spoken and humble, who probably had more linguistic skill than anyone in their international department. "What languages do you speak exactly?" Robert asked, still trying to grasp the scale of what he'd just discovered. Jason thought for a moment. "English, of course. Then French, German, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, Mandarin, Russian, and Arabic. I've dabbled in Portuguese too, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent yet." "Yet," Robert echoed with a faint smile. The confidence in that single word struck him. Jason didn't see a ceiling for himself. He saw a staircase, and he was still climbing. A silence lingered between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was filled with admiration and reflection. Robert, the CEO of a billion-dollar company, was learning something important, perhaps even humbling. He realized how easily talent can be hidden behind a uniform, overlooked in the daily hustle of corporate life. How many times had he walked past Jason without even a nod? How many others in the building had untapped potential, just waiting for someone to notice? Jason, sensing the pause, shifted uncomfortably. "I know I'm just a janitor here, I don't expect anything. I just enjoy practicing when it's quiet. But Robert wasn't listening with the ears of a CEO anymore. He was listening as a human being, moved by the quiet dedication and passion this man had shown. "You're not just anything, Jason," Robert said, his voice filled with conviction. "You're extraordinary, and I think it's time others see that too." Jason looked up, confusion and disbelief in his eyes. "What do you mean, sir?" Robert smiled, already forming a plan in his mind. "Let's just say this won't be the last conversation we have. Not by a long shot." And with that, something shifted, not just in Jason's life, but in the entire heartbeat of TechGlobal. 2 days later, a ripple of surprise swept through TechGlobal when every employee received a rare, direct email from the CEO himself. Subject: urgent company-wide meeting, mandatory attendance. Speculation spread like wildfire. Some whispered about layoffs, others feared a merger or crisis. The lobby buzzed with uncertainty as hundreds of employees shuffled in, their faces curious, some tense, others impatient. No one had any clue what was coming, except for Robert Pierce, who stood waiting at the front, unusually solemn yet focused. As the last person filtered in, Robert raised his hand, calling for silence. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," he began, his voice steady. "What I'm about to share isn't a business update or financial news. It's a reminder, no, a revelation about the people around you, about what it means to truly see someone." A pause. 2 days ago, I came in early and overheard someone speaking. At first, I thought it was a foreign podcast playing in the hallway. But as I got closer, I realized it wasn't a recording. It was one of us, speaking not just 1 or 2 languages, but 9 fluently. A few skeptical laughs scattered through the crowd. Robert didn't flinch. "That man is Jason Miller." The room fell into stunned silence. Dozens of heads turned instinctively toward the side of the stage, where Jason stood quietly, still wearing his faded blue janitor uniform. His eyes were wide with disbelief, his hands nervously fidgeting by his side. "You may recognize him," Robert continued, "as the person you've passed in the hallways without a second thought, the one who made sure your workspace was spotless, who arrived before you and left long after you were gone. But what you didn't know was that Jason has been quietly practicing languages for years: French, German, Mandarin, Spanish, Italian, Russian, Arabic, Japanese, and more. All self-taught, all mastered." Gasps echoed across the lobby. Some people stared with wide eyes. Others leaned over to whisper in astonishment. A few even began to clap, slowly, as the weight of what they heard began to sink in. Robert held up a hand. "And I've made a decision. Starting today, Jason Miller is no longer our janitor. He is the new head of global communications. He will help us bridge cultures, enhance our international operations, and represent what TechGlobal truly stands for, recognizing excellence in every corner of our organization." For a split second, silence reigned. Then applause, loud, thunderous, and rising into cheers. People clapped, whistled, and even stood to their feet. Jason, standing at the side, looked frozen in shock. His eyes were glassy, his mouth slightly open. He had never imagined this moment, not in his wildest dreams. As co-workers swarmed to congratulate him, Jason finally smiled, a quiet, grateful smile. And in that moment, he wasn't just a janitor. He was a symbol of possibility, and proof that greatness doesn't always wear a suit. Jason stepped into his new role with a mix of humility and quiet determination. Though the title on his door now read Head of Global Communications, he still arrived early and left late, just like he always had. But this time, instead of mopping floors, he was leading international video calls, translating complex contracts, and guiding the company's global strategy with precision that even seasoned professionals found astonishing. Within weeks, TechGlobal saw a noticeable shift. Language barriers that once slowed down deals or caused misunderstandings vanished under Jason's guidance. Clients from Tokyo to Berlin to Dubai felt an immediate sense of trust and connection when speaking with him in their native tongue. His ability to not only speak fluently, but understand cultural nuance made TechGlobal stand out in a crowded marketplace. But Jason's true impact went far beyond linguistics. What amazed his co-workers the most wasn't just his skill, but his character. He was approachable, calm, and always willing to listen. He didn't flaunt his new position, nor did he act superior. When younger employees asked for advice, Jason would invite them for coffee, sharing his journey and encouraging them to follow their own passions, even if it meant learning in silence, as he once had. Robert Pierce, the CEO, watched the transformation unfold with pride. His decision to elevate Jason hadn't just improved the company's communication department. It had shifted the company's soul. He often told the story in leadership meetings. If I hadn't stopped to listen that morning, we would have missed one of the brightest minds in our building. Jason soon spearheaded a mentorship initiative within TechGlobal, urging employees from every department, not just the executive ranks, to share their hidden skills and passions. Artists in accounting, musicians in IT, coders in customer support. Slowly but surely, a new culture bloomed. One where every employee felt seen, heard, and valued for more than just their job title. The atmosphere in the office grew vibrant. People were more curious, more collaborative, and far more inspired. Productivity metrics soared, but more importantly, so did morale. What had once been a conventional corporate machine became a place of innovation, empathy, and human connection. Jason's journey, from janitor to respected global leader, became a story shared in business seminars, podcasts, and graduation speeches. But within the walls of TechGlobal, it was more than a story. It was a living reminder that true greatness often hides in plain sight. All it takes is one person willing to pause, look a little closer, and ask the right question. And thanks to that one question, how do you know so many languages? Jason Miller helped rewrite the future of an entire company. Clapperboard if you found this story inspiring. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon so you never miss out on more powerful and heart-touching stories like this. Your support helps us keep sharing content that uplifts, motivates, and reminds us of the greatness hidden in everyday lives. Blue Heart.